An absolute Bitcoin quake at the World Economic Forum 2025 in Davos. Bitcoin has now arrived here among the elite, among the BlackRocks, the Klaus Schwabs, and the people who want to dictate to you what you should do and not do, among the people who tell you that you will own nothing and be happy. Brian Armstrong is making a massive Bitcoin statement here, the CEO of Coinbase. And he says here that Bitcoin is better than gold. He says that in the future, states will have to hold Bitcoin. And the people who are invited here are people from the International Monetary Fund who, for example, have banned Bitcoin here in El Salvador, to have Bitcoin as legal tender in El Salvador. They are people like Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank. And now we see people here who are massively pushing Bitcoin forward. You can really see that something is changing here. People are fed up with the WEF here. People are fed up. Right here, letting freedom take its course. People are fed up with censorship. People are fed up with inflation. People are done with oppression. People really want to get out of here, out of the matrix. More and more people are realizing that they need to get out of the fiat matrix. And now even Klaus Schwab has to listen to this. Why Bitcoin is going to prevail here. And last year we had the massive speech from Millie. And this year we even have a Bitcoin that's really pushing Bitcoin forward. Let's take a look at the whole thing now. Check out these statements. We'll also take a look at some interesting background info about the World Economic Forum later, because what's going on here is just insane. It's really something else. And it can't be topped in terms of urgency. And everyone needs to understand now what's happening here. We really need to get the information out there. That what's being planned here, what they're saying out loud, it's not a secret. They're just putting it all out there. That the expropriation, that in the end, it's all about coercion, censorship, deprivation of freedom, and who knows what else. It's all planned. This is all on the agenda. And Bitcoin is definitely the absolute counterbalance. Bitcoin is the ultimate tool for freedom, which really throws a wrench in the works for the World Economic Forum. And just like last year, Millie threw a wrench in the works for the World Economic Forum. Brian Armstrong is doing the same thing here, maybe not in a big speech, but at least on a discussion panel. Check out what he has to say.
It's indeed quite something else. Really remarkable. Money performs better than gold. It's valuable and scarce, more portable and divisible. You can use it as a currency, and it's been the top asset recently. For storing value, it's key for governments. Clearly, Bitcoin is better money than gold. For storing value, I think it can be important for a government. They might start by wanting it in their reserves, but over time, it could become equal to a lot of gold reserves. Also, it clearly states here,
Bitcoin is better money than gold. So you see Bitcoin as money too, right? Just take a look at that. Christine Lagarde is invited here, the head of the International Monetary Fund and many others. They need to listen up now. I don't really know if they were in the audience, but at least the topic is becoming more mainstream here. They say here that Bitcoin is better money than gold because it's scarce, but it has even more advantages, like being easier to transport. That it obviously has even more uses, and it obviously has better censorship resistance too, and whatever. So Bitcoin is clearly superior to gold here. He explains that Bitcoin is the best performing asset here and is better than gold, stocks, silver, and many more. Of course, it's also way better than the forced currency euro, way better than the forced currency dollar, and so on. And then he ultimately makes the massive point that he says nations need to hold Bitcoin too. Nations will hold Bitcoin, and it will become a new store of value for nation states as well. And here at the beginning, maybe the 1% to 2% allocation will come, but it will even surpass gold, because that absolutely makes sense. And that would also fit, that a strategic Bitcoin reserve is being established here in the USA, among many other things. And the ECB has really been going hard against Bitcoin. She recently had a discussion here with Binzile, and the sheep who are always attacking Bitcoin, basically published the paper Why a Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Will Fail, and so on. And now Lagarde is sitting here and has to listen to this. Why Bitcoin is better than the euro. Bitcoin will keep proving its value, like the euro, like the dollar. And why Bitcoin will continue to establish itself as a store of value. So that's a development. That is now good. What is happening at the WEF is unacceptable, is really below the belt. Here, a worldview is really being forced on us. Also here, with all the climate stuff and everything, I read something from the ECB again 2 days ago. Someone posted again. Yeah, we need to step up for the climate again, and we have to focus on climate sustainability or something like that. Keep that in mind when we make our monetary policy. You don't have to do any of that crap. Your mandate is to maintain monetary stability. You're not responsible for saving the climate, to save the world, because the people who want to save the world usually end up doing the least. Look at this, just take a look. all these politicians who can't even manage to be in harmony with themselves, who can't even manage to be healthy themselves, who can't even manage to be nice to their fellow humans. They want to dictate to you how to save the world here. They want to play the role of world improvers. And we see it time and again when someone tries to make the world a better place. When someone tries to save the world, in the end, what happens is just more chaos. That means you really have to start with yourself. That's such a simple piece of wisdom. Sweep in front of your own door first. Make sure you're in your best state. Make sure you're getting along harmoniously with your surroundings, with your friends, that you bring love into the world and to your neighbors, to your fellow humans, and not decide things for other people and think, I know better, I've talked to the oracle of God. I know exactly what's right and wrong for people, and then in the end, dictate to them. I know exactly what's right and wrong for people, and then in the end, dictate to people here. What you should do, what you should stop doing. To say, yeah, you can only eat this much meat. Look at this, just take a look. I'm someone who eats vegan, even raw food. That means I don't eat meat. But the last thing I would do is dictate to people that they shouldn't eat meat anymore. People should do what they want, and it's their own decision, what they want, and it's their own decision. You have to figure it out for yourself in the end, what is good and right for you. And I'm not here as the oracle of God who knows what other people should do or not do. I'm not even sure if what I'm doing, what other people should do or not do. I'm not even sure if what I'm doing, if it's even right. I don't know if it's right to buy Bitcoin. I don't know if it's right to live vegan, but it's working really, really well for me right now. From my experience, I can say, hey, this works really well, and that's why I do it. But I don't want to force it on anyone else. I don't want to force Bitcoin on anyone. I don't want to force anyone to stop eating meat. If someone wants to do it, then go for it. There's absolutely no problem with that. And the people at the WEF, they even want to dictate to you that you should only eat some kind of insects and worms or something like that in the end. That's absolutely hair-raising. Now, I actually saw a video here about stocks in the head from the call. Shout out to everyone out there. I'll link the video down below. It's really genius how you guys are totally breaking down the WEF. Check this out so you can get a taste of what kind of people you're dealing with here.
Conspiracy theories surround the World Economic Forum. Why do people always have this thing with conspiracy theories when it comes to the forum or trying to shed light on conspiracies? They say it right in the middle of it, like what their problems are and what the global agenda is. What does that have to do with conspiracy theories? So they're not even discussing this in back rooms anymore. They're just throwing it right out there in front of the camera.
But look, if people are only going to one source and that source is messed up and has an agenda and they're spreading disinformation, our First Amendment is a big barrier to just being able to wipe it out completely. So what we need is to win the ground 1,000. Is to win the ground 1,000.
As the guy disappears, he says that when people go to a source and that source is sick, it's full of misinformation. Yeah, then unfortunately we can't do anything about it. Because our Constitution in the U.S. guarantees freedom of speech, and we can't, literally, he says, out of the so-called hammer it out of reality. Hammer it out of existence are his words. Ha ha ha. They're so lost by now. They haven't understood anything. What's actually going on right now? That more and more people are fed up with this agenda.
And just like that, they obviously want to restrict opinions here. Just like that, they obviously want to dictate to you what money you should use to pay, with what money you shouldn't be paying. They're already setting up the framing, basically. Also, from the ECB, for the digital euro, the International Monetary Fund is basically blackmailing all the Central and South American countries. Max Kaiser mentioned that before. When did he say that? 2 weeks ago. He mentioned it in an interview with me. That the International Monetary Fund is also known for that. People who don't agree with the opinions, with the worldview of the International Monetary Fund, they just get thrown out of a plane, somewhere. Some leaders here in Central or South American countries. That's obviously a bit exaggerated, the way it's put. But in the end, that's how it goes. We have a lot of big players in the background here. The Klaus Schwabs, the BlackRocks, whatever they're all called. I don't want to say there's a world conspiracy, because I don't believe in a world conspiracy either. Because the problem is, they're dumb themselves. They can't even get it right sometimes. Let's take a look now, for example, at the digital euro. So my tip would still be that they might not even be able to pull it off, because they might actually be too dumb, because the bureaucracy has gotten too high, and so on. I mean, you always have to be careful with that, because they're not, let's say, completely dumb. They've got something going for them, but they're not really clear themselves. Which direction it should go now? Should we now? I don't know. Censor social media. Should we censor money? What exactly are we doing? How exactly do we proceed? That means you have to be on the same page here. And that's why there are meetings like this one here in Davos. At the International, no, not at the International Monetary Fund, but here at the World Economic Forum, that you just build a global agenda. There's also the Agenda 2030 and so on, but it's obviously crazy. Agenda 2030, that will definitely happen too, somehow failing. At first, people kind of bought into it. Now I feel like more and more people are waking up and really pushing back against this. Even if you take a look around here, who's all here? Here we have Emmanuel Macron, Christine Lagarde, central bank. Then we have Macron, who, let's just say, isn't exactly known for that he stands for free speech and stuff like that. Or let's say for freedom. Justin Trudeau is probably the biggest socialist walking around here. Olaf Scholz, Olaf Schnitz. Or as Elon Musk always says, he's not exactly known for that either. That he stands for freedom. Freedom. Then we have Kristoliana Kayacheva. She's the head of the International Monetary Fund. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg, you could say, okay, he's opened up a bit now. For free expression. Others say, no, he still basically represents someone who stands for censorship and so on. He's just putting on a big show here. Then we have Larry Fink, of course, the head of Black. And Larry Fink, he knows that Bitcoin is important here. I mean, he hasn't learned anything here, now probably from the Bitcoin speech. But Larry Fink is also discredited by a lot of people and is basically accused here. That he doesn't actually stand for freedom here, but of course wants to push his own interests. Then we also have Rishi Sunak. He was the one in the UK who was responsible for that. That there are people who posted something on social media and then ended up in jail when it was critical of the government. We can still go through a whole bunch of people here. Who else stands out to me here? Angela Merkel seems to be in the mix here too. I don't know if this is the current list, but I think this is actually the current list because everyone is invited here to the World Economic Forum. Definitely some very questionable things going on here that are going on at the World Economic Forum. Feel free to let me know down below what you think about all this. That an agenda is simply being set here. Everywhere ahead is being determined. It said, hey, yes, you won't own anything anymore, let's say, but you'll be happy. You'll only be eating some grasshoppers or something like that. You won't be allowed to. Eating meat, you won't be allowed to do certain things anymore. You won't be able to use freedom money anymore. Stop using Bitcoin, then we all use the digital euro, ideally a digital ID on top, ideally complete control. And then you'll all just be super happy. It'll just be laid out for you like that. I'm obviously exaggerating a bit, I get that, but let me know what you think about it. If you stand for freedom here, still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link down below to 21 Bitcoin. The easiest way to buy Bitcoin here in Europe. Absolute recommendation. Here you can use the code Bitcoin. Up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Let's fucking go. See you later. See you later. Peace out.